UN rapporteurs say that the Saudi crown prince was probably involved in the installation of spyware on Amazon founder Jeff Bezos' personal phone. Brazilian prosecutors have indicted Glenn Greenwald, co-founder of The Intercept, on hacking charges. IBM describes a renewed NetWire campaign, and Microsoft says Stars-Lord is back too. And in cyberspace, there's nothing new on the US-Iranian front. And now, a word from our sponsor, KnowBe4. There's a reason more than half of today's ransomware victims end up paying the ransom. Cyber criminals have become thoughtful, taking the time to maximize your organization's potential damage and their payoff. After achieving root access, the bad guys explore your network, reading email, finding data troves, and once they know you, they craft a plan to cause the most panic, pain, and operational disruption. Ransomware has gone nuclear. But don't panic. The good folks at KnowBe4 have an exclusive webinar where you can find out why data backups, even offline backups, won't save you, why ransomware isn't your real problem, and how your end users can become your best last line of defense. Go to knowbe4.com/ransom and learn more about this exclusive webinar. That's knowbe4.com/ransom, RANSOM. And we thank KnowBe4 for sponsoring our show. Funding for this CyberWire podcast is made possible in part by McAfee. Security fueled by insight. Intelligence lets you respond to your environment. Insights empower you to change it. Identify with machine learning. Defend and correct with deep learning. Anticipate with artificial intelligence. McAfee, the device-to-cloud cybersecurity company. Go to McAfee.com/insights. From the CyberWire studios at Data Tribe, I'm Dave Bittner with your CyberWire summary for Wednesday, January 22nd, 2020. Two investigations dominate today's news. The first involves the compromise of a phone. The second, the indictment of a journalist. To take up the phone compromise first, Amazon chief and Washington Post owner Jeff Bezos is reported to have had his phone hacked in May of 2018 by Saudi operators. The Guardian reports that Mr. Bezos' phone was compromised after contact with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. The hacking took place some 5 months before the killing of Jamal Khashoggi on October 2, 2018. Mr. Khashoggi had been a critic of the Saudi government and a columnist for the Post. The Crown Prince is widely suspected of involvement with the killing, with sources as varied as the U.S. Special Rapporteur on Extrajudicial Killings and the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency reaching that conclusion. The Special Rapporteur announced the conclusion publicly last summer. The CIA's conclusion hasn't been formally announced, but has been widely reported. The details of the compromise in the Guardian's report are as follows. On May 1st of 2018, after an otherwise friendly chat session between the Crown Prince and Mr. Bezos received a WhatsApp message from what appeared to be the Crown Prince's private account. That message carried a malware payload. Shortly after the installation of the payload, a large quantity of data were exfiltrated from Mr. Bezos' device. Where does the evidence come from? According to the Wall Street Journal, Mr. Bezos contracted with Washington-based FTI Consulting for a forensic audit of his phone. FTI concluded with medium to high confidence that data began leaving the device shortly after it received a video file from the WhatsApp account linked to the Crown Prince, and that such data exfiltration continued for months. FTI Consulting would not comment on the story to the Journal, which cites a person familiar with the matter as its source. The Saudi embassy in Washington tweeted that the hacking claims were absurd and has demanded an investigation so that all the facts may come out. An investigation is what the UN officials who apparently saw the FTI Consulting report wants too. The Wall Street Journal reports this morning that the UN Special Rapporteurs on Extrajudicial Killings and Freedom of Expression this morning said, quote, Mr. Bezos was subjected to intrusive surveillance via hacking of his phone as a result of actions attributable to the WhatsApp account used by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. End quote. Those two officials were involved because of the circumstances of Khashoggi's killing and because of Khashoggi's work as a journalist. The rapporteurs go on to add that, quote, A single photograph is texted to Mr. Bezos from the Crown Prince's WhatsApp account, along with a sardonic caption. It is an image of a woman resembling the woman with whom Bezos is having an affair, months before the Bezos affair was known publicly." End quote. The source of the kingdom's interest in Mr. Bezos is widely reported as stemming from his ownership of the Washington Post and the Post's employment of Mr. Khashoggi, who had been an irritant to Saudi authorities. One of the public passages in the ill-willed dispute between Bezos and the kingdom may be seen in Mr. Bezos' February 7, 2019 blog post entitled "No Thank You, Mr. Pecker," in which he explained his disinclination to accede to what he characterized as pressure from David Pecker, chief of the National Enquirer's corporate parent AMI, to call off Post investigations of the Khashoggi killing and other matters discreditable to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. What the malicious payload on Mr. Bezos' phone actually was is unknown, but the rapporteurs speculate that it may have been NSO Group's intercept tool Pegasus. The grounds for this seem so far to be largely circumstantial, based on Pegasus's known performance and distribution, and by reports of it being distributed via WhatsApp. Cisco Duo recently released the latest version of their State of the Auth report, which tracks how users are adopting modern authentication methods. Sean Fraser is advisory CISO for Federal at Cisco Duo.
So I think the biggest things are there is an uptick in awareness and usage of multi-factor. And I think that that's kind of due to a few different reasons. One is I think a lot of users in their personal lives are being required to use multi-factor authentication. I mean, now if you log into a bank account or you log into Facebook or eBay or pretty much anything you use online, you're almost either required or strongly encouraged to use multi-factor. So I think that's helping create more awareness, and certainly more awareness in the enterprise. And I think the enterprise side is kind of coming at it from that perspective as well. They're kind of saying, okay, for enterprise applications, we're going to require you to use multi-factor for these things and not just allow you to use username and password. So we see both of these things from awareness to usage trending up. So they're not quite double from last year, but they're pretty close.
Yeah, let's go through together what you all saw in terms of the types of multi-factor that are most popular and how that's trending. What did you find there?
So I think we still see the one of the predominant methods of multi-factor being SMS based, or kind of one-time passcode over an SMS channel. We've started to see folks kind of move away from that for obvious reasons. If you look at kind of the NIST guidance around passwords and authentication, they actually have recommended people not use SMS-based authentication just because of the ability for someone to take control of that channel.
Yeah, let's dig into that. I mean, one of the things you highlight here in the report is the importance of your email account.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that tends to be the kind of the nucleus of everything that people do. If you're doing again, a password reset, or you're doing some kind of account reset, a lot of times that's coming back to your email. That's going to be, part and parcel with everything else you're doing in your email account. And if someone has hijacked your email account, which is not super simple, but not a terribly difficult thing to do, they have access to everything. They can go pretend to be you, do a password reset, bypass the multi-factor authentication, get that reset done through your email by just saying the fact that I don't have that device anymore, or I don't have that phone number anymore. So I need to, and the banks want to, and other account holders or account creators want to be able to provide this ease of use to users, this self-service, because it helps them too. And by virtue of that, if you're not protecting an email account, you're wide open.
Where do you suppose we're headed here? Are we getting to the point where users are willing to accept that multi-factor is just part of the deal, that if you want to use some of these services, it's going to be required?
I think so. I think more so that will happen over time. Again, I think that, we've lived in this password life for, over 20 years. We've only really seen multi-factor authentication become prevalent in our personal lives in the last couple of years. So it's really only been like the last bit or last part of that. So I still think we have a couple more years to go before we've got to the point where it's widely accepted. I think, part of that is us, meaning us software developers, developing things that are super easy to use. Because again, we don't want to add too much friction on top of what users have to do already. It's not going to be the silver bullet in the short term, but I think longer term, I do see light at the end of the tunnel for actually getting away from the password life.
That's Sean Fraser from Cisco Duo on their latest State of the Auth report. Brazilian federal prosecutors on Tuesday unsealed charges against Glenn Greenwald, co-founder of The Intercept and best known for publishing Edward Snowden's leaks. The New York Times reports that Mr. Greenwald's role in publishing cell phone messages that embarrassed prosecutors and an anti-corruption task force is at issue. Prosecutors say that he played a clear role in facilitating the commission of a crime by being in contact with people who obtained the messages and recommended that they cover their tracks. Greenwald himself brackets his case with Julian Assange's and claims both indictments represent an attack on journalism. Few others see it this way. Mr. Assange is generally regarded as having worked actively to facilitate hacking, whereas Greenwald merely advised sources on how to remain anonymous. The Electronic Frontier Foundation, the ACLU, and other observers have objected to the charges, which they see as a threat to legitimate journalism. Mr. Greenwald has been critical of the Brazilian government and is a controversial figure in that country. There have been some announcements with respect to new threats, or perhaps familiar threats now renewed. IBM's X-Force researchers have found a new phishing campaign that uses fake business emails that deliver variants of the NetWire remote access Trojan. NetWire first emerged in 2012. This particular campaign looks like the work of criminals out for financial gain. And there's another malware strain that's been around for some time. S-Load, also known as StarsLord, not to be confused with the Guardians of the Galaxy hero. S-Load is a dropper malware that can be used as the first stage in an attack to deliver further malicious code that actually accomplishes the criminal's goals. Information theft, credential theft, or maybe even theft. Microsoft exposed the S-Load gang's methods last month, ZDNet reports, but the gang has adapted and is now busily using S-Load 2.0. And finally, we haven't forgotten the prospect of U.S.-Iranian conflict in cyberspace. Such concerns persist, as NPR and others have noticed. But so far, the kittens haven't been yowling or the eagles screaming, at least not publicly. And now, a word from our sponsor, ExtraHop, delivering cloud-native network detection and response for the hybrid enterprise. The cloud helps your organization move fast, but hybrid isn't easy. Most cloud security failures will fall on customers, not service providers. Now that network detection and response is available in the public cloud, it's finally possible to close the visibility gaps inside your network. ExtraHop Reveal X Cloud brings cloud-native network detection and response to AWS, helping security teams spot, contain, and respond to threats that have already breached the perimeter. Request your 30-day free trial of Reveal X Cloud today at extrahop.com/trial. That's extrahop.com/trial. And we thank ExtraHop for sponsoring our show. And joining me once again is Ben Yellen. He is the Program Director for Public Policy and External Affairs at the University of Maryland Center for Health and Homeland Security. He is also my co-host on the Caveat podcast. Ben, always great to have you back.
Thank you, Dave.
We've got a fun privacy story here this week. This is a story from Motherboard, and the title is, This Secretive Surveillance Company is Selling Cops Cameras Hidden in Gravestones. Written by Joseph Cox. What's going on here, Ben?
I can't get enough of this story. It's so good in so many ways. So
okay.
There's a surveillance vendor who works with many U.S. government agencies, all of your three-letter agencies, FBI, right. DEA, and ICE.
Okay.
And there were marketing materials that were leaked to Vice and Motherboard, indicating some of the spying capabilities that this company has. One of those spying capabilities was to put a hidden camera or a hidden recording device inside of a tombstone. Another one was a camera inside a baby car seat, and a third one was a surveillance device in a vacuum cleaner. All of these are beyond bizarre just because they're almost like, it almost seems like it was created from some sort of comedy bit and not for a legitimate surveillance purpose.
Yeah.
But to make it better, you couldn't make up a shadier sounding group. Nothing against the Special Services Group, which is the vendor behind these products, but their logo is the floating eye and the pyramid logo, which I don't know if you've seen. What was that movie where there was like a whole conspiracy about how the backside of our US dollars, which contain that pyramid, were some sort of hidden signal for something.
Right.
It's escaping me at the moment. But the fact that they have these rather absurd surveillance devices in some of the most bizarre places imaginable, they have this name and they have this logo. It's just sort of the full package of surveillance insanity.
This is tickling your funny bone from many different directions.
It is. Yeah. Now, obviously, there's a serious side because, like many other secret recording devices, this is part of the pervasiveness of our surveillance state.
Okay. Let me play devil's advocate here because I guess...
Good role to play. Now you're the lawyer.
Yeah, and I don't know what's... playing devil's advocate in a cemetery. I don't know. But... the first thing that came to mind for me in a situation like this is an episode of The Sopranos.
Oh.
You know, right? You got a bunch of mobsters. Somebody's been whacked. Right. How are you gonna to surveil and see who was there and what they said and I don't know. Johnny Dollar got dropped. So I could see this being a useful thing for law enforcement. It's just going to blend in. Is it absurd? Yeah, but I guess the history of surveillance and the FBI and the CIA is chock full of clever ways in which to hide recording devices. So,
yeah, I think actually the position you present is entirely reasonable.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of the places law enforcement has placed recording devices probably seemed ridiculous when they were first proposed.
Uh-huh.
The vendor is probably introducing this product in response to some sort of demand, and because there aren't a lot of people who go to cemeteries at night for legitimate reasons. It's probably a place where people gather to engage in illicit conduct. And there you would have law enforcement justification for putting recording devices there. You can certainly think of a million different reasons why you'd want to have a recording device on a child's car seat. Especially if you were engaged in some sort of tracking of a potential child predator, or, you had some individualized suspicion about a parent or something. I mean, you could certainly imagine what law enforcement's interest would be. It's just, when you put it in the terms of they're putting recording devices in our gravestones, it just sounds like something that the crazy person on the street would make up as part of
Right, yeah.
A crazed rant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I think it speaks to that general creepiness of, are there no spaces that are, in this case, literally
sacred?
Yeah.
Now, I think our most sacred place is our home. Our home is our castle.
Mm-hmm.
Our next most sacred place probably would be our gravestone. I mean, it is
maybe a house of worship?
A house of worship, which certainly surveillance has taken place within houses of worship.
Right.
I think that's
right.
A given.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, this is certainly up there on one of the places that we like to, that is sacred to us.
Yeah.
It's a place where people have a lot of private moments. So even though there might be legitimate law enforcement purposes, I mean, imagine visiting grandma's tombstone and somebody recording that very intimate private moment when you're there and you're grieving.
Yeah.
And if it just, part of it is that the vendor here is just sort of hilariously cavalier about the whole thing. So they released part of their advertisements, and it's almost as if they're advertising like a smart refrigerator or something, and how enthusiastic they are about it.
Right.
Our newest video concealment offering, which has the ability to conduct remote surveillance operations from cemeteries.
Yeah. So maybe a little tone deaf.
It is.
By your estimation.
The all-inclusive system can be deployed for approximately 2 days with the included battery, and it is fully portable and can be moved from location to location as necessary. Yeah, it's that seems overly enthusiastic.
Yeah. All right. Well, the article is titled "This Secretive Surveillance Company is Selling Cops Hidden Cameras and Gravestones." It's on Motherboard via Vice. Ben Yellen, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
And that's the CyberWire. For links to all of today's stories, check out our daily news brief at thecyberwire.com. Thanks to all of our sponsors for making the CyberWire possible, especially our supporting sponsor, Observit, a Proofpoint company and the leading insider threat management platform. Learn more at observit.com. The CyberWire podcast is proudly produced in Maryland out of the startup studios of Data Tribe. where they're co-building the next generation of cybersecurity teams and technologies. Our amazing CyberWire team is Elliot Peltzman, Haru Prakash, Stefan Vaziri, Kelsey Bond, Tim Nodar, Joe Kerrigan, Carol Terrio, Ben Yellen, Nick Valecki, Bennett Moe, Chris Russell, John Petrick, Jennifer Iben, Peter Kilpie, and I'm Dave Bittner. Thanks for listening.